From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Now at 5, terrifying moments in Petaluma after workers at this jewelry store were held at gunpoint. A look at the aftermath and details on 2 arrests.
And later in this hour, Oakland's own Kehlani throwing her support behind immigrants after her first Grammy win. Her victory speech that sounded like a rallying cry. We're live at the CBS studios in San Francisco. I'm Brian Heck.
And I'm Andrea Nakano. We begin in Petaluma, where workers at a local jewelry store were held at gunpoint during a robbery.
This is a look at the damage after suspects ran into Gold Rush Jewelers and started grabbing everything they could. Police have arrested 2 people in connection with the robbery, but 4 more are on the run.
This all happened last night. The store is located on South McDowell Boulevard near East Washington Street, right next to the Safeway there. Dahlin has more on the efforts to track down the rest of the suspects.
Last and final warning, make yourself known now, my dog will find you, he'll bite you.
A Sonoma County Sheriff's K-9 unit and Petaluma police surround a backyard where a possible robbery suspect is hiding. Police are looking for 6 people who had just robbed Gold Rush Jewelers at gunpoint. With the help of K-9s, a chopper, and alert neighbors, police tracked down and arrested 2 teenagers in a nearby neighborhood, both 18 years old. Police say one is from Pittsburgh, the other from Antioch, but 4 others got away.
It's just shocking. I mean, it's a very beloved local business.
The robbery happened on Saturday afternoon around 4:45 p.m. Customers Catherine Cummings and Clarissa Rudy say it was brazen for people to storm a store with so many shoppers all around the plaza. The jewelry shop is located next door to Safeway and close to other big-name stores.
Certainly, yeah, very busy. Lots of people around. Yeah, so again, I'm glad nobody was hurt because that, with how busy it is, that could have been a very bad situation very quickly.
Petaluma police say while one robber held workers at gunpoint, the other 5 broke display cases with hammers and took jewelry. Investigators say a bystander witnessed the robbery and drove the suspect's unattended car into the front of the store to stop them. The crash caused the suspects to flee. Police say a suspect pepper sprayed the bystander as he tried to leave the car. 4 suspects then got into the stolen car and drove off. Police say 2 other suspects ran into a nearby neighborhood, and those are believed to be the 2 18-year-olds who were later arrested.
I think it's really scary these times that, teenaged individuals feel that it's okay to do that in broad daylight.
Police later found the stolen car, but says there are no signs of the 4 remaining suspects. It's unclear how much jewelry was taken or how much was recovered.
I feel sad, really, because it does take away your sense of security and it makes you realize anytime, anything could happen. But I think as a community, everybody sticks together and helps each other here.
Customers say they're relieved the workers are safe. The company declined to comment. People were seen cleaning up the store on Sunday. Catherine and Clarissa hope the robbers didn't take their ring. The store was resizing a wedding band they were supposed to pick up.
The ring we were going to pick up today. And then mine's an Alexandrite that we also purchased here just a year or 2 back. Part of me is worried that the thing we were going to pick up is one of the things that got taken, so we'll see.
Police say the bystander who drove the car into the store to stop the robbery is recovering from minor injuries. They're reminding people to be good witnesses and not put themselves at risk. As for the 2 18-year-olds arrested, police say they're facing a number of charges.
Thank you, Don. A sideshow turned deadly late last night after this SUV ended up inside a home in San Leandro. Police say officers tried to pull over this white Infiniti SUV for breaking traffic laws near East 14th Street and Bancroft Avenue. They say the driver refused to stop and just took off. Instead of a pursuit on city streets, a chopper followed the car from the air. Police say the Infiniti hit a parked car near Bancroft Avenue and then crashed into this house. 3 men were pulled out of the car. The man in the front passenger seat died. The driver is in critical condition, and the backseat passenger was treated for their injuries.
Well, nearly 98% of San Francisco public school teachers voted in favor of a strike last night. Their union, the United Teachers of San Francisco, wants a 9% salary increase over the next 2 years and dependent coverage included with their health care benefit. Teachers say they'd rather not have to walk out.
We are really hoping not to strike. The My colleagues, the community, we don't want to strike. We want to stay in our classrooms with our students.
They say a strike won't be called until after a fact-finding report is released on February 4th. Andrea?
Well, the 49ers lost defensive coordinator Robert Saleh earlier this month. That meant Kyle Shanahan once again had to delay his offseason until he found a replacement.
Definitely don't like doing this for the 5th year in a row. I really would like to go on vacation, but these D coordinators keep making me have to, my family wait and get mad at me for it.
Well, the Shanahan family can now go on vacation because the team has reportedly reached a deal with Raheem Morris to be the team's new defensive coordinator. He spent the last 2 seasons as the Falcons head coach after a successful run leading the Rams defense. And Vern Glenn joins us now. Vern, how excited should 49er fans be about this hire?
I think they should be excited, but I think the Kyle Shanahan family is really excited because he gets some time off. He can go on vacation now with this hire. Look, 3 things that Kyle Shanahan likes: familiarity, continuity, and somebody that can walk in and challenge his offensive scheme in practice day in and day out. So Raheem checks off all those boxes, and he's got 2 Super Bowl rings to back that up, one with Tampa and one with the Rams running that defense. So again, he knows what Shanahan likes. They work together in Tampa, Washington, and Atlanta. Boom.
And as the Rams defensive coordinator, he went up against the 49ers offense. So they have that recent history, too.
Yeah,
and Kyle could see that.
I think that Ram defense had a little something to say about that. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, Robert Saleh moving on to Tennessee. How different are these two? Do you know?
I think they're cut from the same cloth. They're both aggressive. They're both, as Saleh likes to say, all gas, no brake, get after it, hand in the dirt, pin the ears back. I mean, that's really what wins these games. That's ultimately what's going to win the Super Bowl coming up next Sunday.
Yeah, and I think he's going to come with a different perspective, because once you're a defense coordinator, move on to a head coach, you have kind of that feel for the whole scheme of things. And it should be interesting how he comes back, like Robert Saleh came back.
Morris had 3 tours of duty as an NFL head coach. So he's been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and so now he's back to his comfort zone as defensive coordinator for the Scarlet and Gold.
All right, well, we'll see how the defense holds up next year. Big thing, no injuries, right, Vern? That would be helpful. Thank you.
All righty, Vern, Andrea, we've got other news tonight, an update to a story we first reported last week about a fence that had gone up at the Daly City coastline blocking access to Thornton State Beach. City says it's taking it down now. John Ramus with more on the person that put it up in the first place.
The saga of the Thornton Beach fence continues as people, including Daly City itself, question whether the man who put up the fence has any real ownership stake in the land at all. The fence went up abruptly a few weeks ago, and visitors to Thornton State Beach have had an equally abrupt reaction.
It's depressing. Like when I had the dogs at the beach, I'm like, it's so sad that someone would want to close this off so we can't enjoy all of this.
So I haven't been here for a while, so I drove up and I'm like, was there always an ugly fence? Was there always this ugly fence around here?
Whoever did this seems to be mean-spirited, that's all. Doesn't want people to enjoy nature. What kind of a mind would want to block people from enjoying this beauty?
The man behind the fence, living in the trailer, is Luke Brugnara. At one time, he was a successful real estate investor in San Francisco, but in 2015, he was convicted of fraud in a deal to purchase artwork and sentenced to 7 years in prison. He acted as his own attorney and was also charged with contempt of court. But the attorney at his appeals hearing told the judge his actions may be the result of a mental illness.
Mr. Brugnara is willful, is one of the most obnoxious people I've ever met, frankly, and that was presented to the court. But we can't say that just because somebody is obnoxious, somebody does have these things, that is not a function of his underlying mental illness.
The judges rejected that argument and his appeal was denied. On Saturday, Daly City officials announced that they were taking action to remove the fence. They say it was built without a required permit and appears to extend into public areas, blocking portions of the public right-of-way down to the beach. The city also says it is working to confirm property ownership to ensure that all owners are notified. The land inside the fence is actually multiple parcels, and there is a question of what land, if any, belongs to Brugnara. But this afternoon, we spoke with a man named Paul Naj in North Carolina who says he transferred his small portion of land to Brugnara because he was tired of the unsuccessful efforts to sell the property.
There was hemming and hawing about this going on for things. I decided, well, the majority of people don't seem to want to sell it, so I'm going to just basically give them title to my portion of the property. To maybe motivate the other owners to sell.
So did you give it to him, or did he buy it from you?
No, it was an outright gift, on the provision that I would get a proportion. Once the property was sold, I would get a proportion. I would get my proportionate share.
Naj says he believes city officials planned on taking the land over eventually through eminent domain, and he is disgusted that they never made the owners an offer.
It's not even forcing an issue. I'm just washing my hands of it. This is being Pontius Pilate, washing my hands of the whole issue.
In the meantime, residents are concerned about whether Brugnara poses a physical threat. Early on, he posted a crude sign threatening to shoot anyone trespassing on the land. Published reports say he was arrested by police on January 22nd and booked into San Mateo County Jail, but released the same day.
Wow. Well, taking a look at our other top stories, Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei warned today that any attack from the U.S. will likely cause a regional war. President Trump's threatened to strike this past week if Iran did not return to negotiations. At the same time, Iranian Americans gathered today in front of the Ferry Building and they're calling for regime change.
Why nobody cares about Persian people? Why nobody cares about Iranian people? That they just killed them. So many, 43,000 young people at the street. We don't need any more negotiate with Iran. We don't want anybody negotiate with Iran. We just want to change a regime.
Many human rights groups place the death toll from the protests at 30,000 or more. But the Iranian government says 3,000 have died. Andrea?
Well, now to the latest in Minneapolis. Our Kevin Coe has been covering the fallout of Alex Pretty's death over the last few weeks. It's been more than a week since the ICU nurse was shot and killed by ICE agents. Kevin got a chance to speak to attendees at a vigil in his honor.
I was angry, upset, because this could have happened to me. I would have done the exact same thing. I'm a nurse. I help people. If I see someone that needs help, I'm going to help them.
Catherine Che was one of about 100 healthcare workers who all felt the same pain, sorrow, and anger at the deadly shooting of Alex Pretty. Krista Reimel, a registered nurse and founder of the We Care nonprofit foundation, organized this vigil for Alex's peers at the Orchestra Hall in downtown Minneapolis.
I was at the Capitol last week with about 75 physician leaders, and they said the moral injury they're feeling right now at this moment is more intense than they felt during the pandemic.
The vigil included moments of reflection, music, and a brief speech by Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Minnesota is once again, after a tough year, at the center of America's heartbreak.
Oof, my heart just sank. Because he's one of our own, and I know the world wants to argue who's right is righter, and I just saw the nurse in him. I don't even care about all the rest, I really don't. I saw his nursing heart.
For some, like 24-year-old James, he came along with his mother, Catherine, because he's felt more anxieties in the later parts of his young life.
It always has to happen in Minnesota, which is always just really sad and really scary. So it was just really impactful to see someone trying to help other people and unfortunately lost their lives because of it.
He's young and this affects everyone, and if there's, injustice for one individual group, it could lead to everybody. So for us to make change, everyone has to speak up, even though it doesn't affect me personally.
Sometimes moments like these feel really long. But what I can tell you as a nurse is life is a really short ride. And I've held a lot of hands at the end of life. We are far more alike than we are different at the end of our life. So if we could actually live that way, wouldn't that be powerful?
And coming up, Okay, it's winter, but brush in the Santa Cruz Mountains could spell danger come fire season. CAL FIRE's already working on that. That's coming up, and so's Mr. Peck.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could put some rain on that brush? Remember that? We used to get rain around here. When we get together in the forecast, we'll talk about the latest update. Our next chance for rain is next weekend. It looks a little more likely now than it did last night. I'll show you the latest thinking on where Sunday, next Sunday, we might see some showers. Forecast coming up after the break.
Well, families in San Mateo are trying to keep bike lanes open near 3 schools. This comes a day before the city council is set to make a final decision on the fate of the bike lanes. One mother tells us she and her daughter bike to school every day, and not having those lanes would have a huge impact. Children and parents held a bike ride in support of keeping the lanes open along Humboldt Street. They argue the bike lanes make the busy street safer for both pedestrians and bicyclists.
She was asking me yesterday, what if they strip them? How are we going to go to school? And I'm like, I don't know. It's going to be very unsafe.
The bike lanes were put in 2022, but received backlash from some neighbors since it removed about 200 parking spaces.
Well, we haven't seen a whole lot of rain since Christmas, but there was enough to begin to turn the hills green. And all that brush, as per usual, means heightened fire danger come summer. Scott Rates has got that story.
That way. Yeah.
Here in the Santa Cruz Mountains, fire is always at the back of people's minds. Heather LaFontaine knows that all too well.
We didn't even expect it. There were fire trucks and engines, and it was just mass hysteria. It was real for me when we got to the main road and we couldn't get out.
Heather's home burning in the CZU fire in 2020, her family forced to evacuate at a moment's notice.
A few days later, we found out that the house was gone. It was surreal. Like, I was here, but I wasn't. Like, it was, you just don't imagine it.
Heather showing me where the fire burned.
It came in from the big basin side through these just acres and acres of fire, and it trickled in.
She says the hardest part of losing her home wasn't the stuff.
The memories that the stuff represents.
Josh Silvera is with CAL FIRE. This year, he's seeing an early troubling trend.
We're starting to see a pretty large grass crop. Usually this time of year, we're seeing grasses that are between ankle and knee high. And out doing projects today, being out in the field, we were seeing grass and seasonal brush that's already, waist high.
With little rain so far this month and the long-range model trending mostly dry, the concern now shifts to those offshore wind events.
As we transition into fire season, that fuel is going to dry out. It's going to become a tinderbox. The wintertime is typically when we focus on fuels reduction, getting our equipment ready for the upcoming fire season, make sure all of our maintenance is ready.
However, the drier conditions forcing CAL FIRE to focus more on fuel reduction.
We're having to pivot, look at things like pile burning, running chippers, masticators, and then we've recently started really using curtain burners, which really allow us to get rid of a large quantity of fuel.
The part that is concerning is when it is a high winds and you have thunder and lightning.
With the fire season now year-round and the higher fuels, Heather isn't taking any chances.
When you need to evacuate, do so right away.
All right, let's start out this forecast by taking a look at that chance for rain. It is a little better looking than it was yesterday at this time, but that is not saying much. However, since there is now a small chance of rain in the forecast, we haven't had much of that lately. I want to give you an idea how that will look. Of course, taking a look at the Futurecast on the high view from the virtual set, you see storm after storm come through here. That's going to go a little too far north and not really want much to do with us. So let's get a little more specific, slow it down, and focus on next Sunday, because that's our next chance. And as we play the Futurecast ahead, we're now close enough to this, I can switch this and actually put times on there. So instead of just generalizing Sunday, let's put a timestamp in there, and let's watch this next system come in on Sunday right there. Sunday morning, we're seeing a pretty well put together system with just a little bit too much of a northerly aim. We're not going to get a whole lot out of this. But as we play it forward from Sunday morning, you'll see a few showers hold together, perhaps to come through the North Bay, maybe even extend down to the Golden Gate. And that's important because that Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday. So we're going to have A lot going on in Santa Clara on Sunday, and however much rain we get out of that thing, it does not look like it's going to have a significant impact. But the possibility is there for a light rain Sunday night. If you're in the North Bay, we're talking about maybe 2/10 of an inch of rain through the day on Sunday. And that would be about it. Here's another way to look at this. If we color in the map, this is what really drives home the perspective of how the storm track's really going out of its way to avoid us. Go all the way through this week. That's through Friday. See this big arcing ridge here, right? There's our center of high pressure that we're stuck under. And then as we advance this a little bit farther, we see that next system comes in. That's what the Sunday rainmaker looks like. You really focus more on the North Bay. But isn't it interesting how it goes down the Sierra and then tries to regroup, bring us a little more rain, maybe into Monday. But we're only talking about 1/100th of an inch of rain. And we're looking out now to day 8 and 9 in the forecast. So we'll keep you updated on that as we get closer to it. The takeaway is expect things to stay fairly quiet, much as they have been around here for some time. I don't see any significant changes there. Let's talk about how it's going to feel out there tomorrow morning. What you might have noticed is in this pattern is we've been staying relatively warm in the mornings, and we're going to keep doing that. So morning lows tomorrow are like mid-40s for a lot of us. Some of these are in the 50s. Santa Cruz, you can only go in a 50. Some of them are in the upper 30s. There's not many, but Livermore, Antioch, Petaluma, and Santa Rosa. So those interior valleys will dip down into the upper 30s. And when we look at daytime highs for tomorrow, this now is the other headline in the forecast. Sure, there's a small chance of rain on Sunday. Let's go ahead and take a look at the whole bay so you can see what your Monday's going to look like. Tuesday and Wednesday are the days where the temperatures stand out. We've already got a couple of 70s on here for tomorrow. So you'll already notice kind of a nice little warm-up. But I want you to see two different 7-day forecasts here. Here's the one for the Bay in general. A lot of upper 60s on here, maybe a little bit of fog by the time we get to Friday and Saturday. But now let's look at the 7-day forecast for San Jose specifically. This is where we've been getting into the low 70s over the last few days. And for San Jose, instead of upper 60s, as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, you could be doing some mid-70s. That's like the warmest it'll be. That's the one microclimate that stands out. And then you can see the Thule fog shows up there by the time we get past that brief little warm-up and maybe a small chance of rain on Sunday. All right, Andrea, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Darren. A man is dead after eating poisonous mushrooms from a regional park in Contra Costa County. County health officials say they believe the man, who was in his 60s, was foraging and mistook the mushroom for an edible species from his home country. The death comes as state health officials report a huge spike in wild mushroom poisonings. They say that since mid-November, 39 people have gotten sick and 4 have died. Multiple people have ended up needing emergency liver transplants. Max Darrow looks at what's driving the trend and the advice from experts.
There are thousands of different kinds of mushrooms growing in California. But there is a fungi right now, as Debbie Weiss points out.
Here they are.
That is public enemy number 1.
Amanita phalloides. They're also known as death caps.
They're responsible for what the California Department of Public Health is calling an ongoing outbreak of amatoxin poisonings across the state. Weiss, the co-founder of the Bay Area Mycological Society, knew trouble was coming back in November.
My husband and I noticed that there were a lot more Amanita phalloides than usual in the field. And we were getting reports from others too, so it wasn't just us noticing. And so we alerted California Poison Control that it was going to be another super bloom year.
Between the rain, the warm-up, and potential energy,
all the conditions were just perfect.
The last major outbreak was in 2016, but was of much smaller scale. Officials say many of the victims don't speak English. Dr. Craig Smolin is with UCSF Emergency Medicine.
And there's a large, community of people who forage mushrooms for food. And these mushrooms may look very much like edible mushrooms in other parts of the world and can easily be mistaken. And I think that is playing a role in some of these cases.
The California Department of Public Health is urging people to not pick or eat wild mushrooms right now.
There's no part of the state that would be considered a, death cap free zone.
But Weiss says people are still going to forage anyway.
So this is a deadly destroying angel.
So she offered a much more nuanced warning.
Don't eat wild mushrooms if you don't know what the heck you're doing. Don't eat wild mushrooms if you're not quite sure of your identification. Don't eat wild mushrooms if you haven't spent some time studying the local mushrooms.
It's easy to mistake edible mushrooms for poisonous mushrooms. Here's a look at two types of amanitas. One of them is safe, the other could kill you. And here's another.
Mushrooms are as variable as human beings, so they don't all look alike, and sometimes that can get us in trouble too.
Vies is hopeful this unfortunate situation will point people towards better education.
But if you want to eat wild mushrooms, you have to learn how to eat them safely, and that takes time.
Time here, in the hopes of preventing a potentially deadly mistake.
Amanita, which is the genus.
From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Outrage in Minnesota continues tonight as a 5-year-old and his father return home. Both were detained by immigration officers.
Images of the child surrounded by officers drew global outrage. Now, federal officials are admitting some immigration efforts have gone too far. Ian Lee has the latest.
5-year-old Liam Ramos and his father, who were detained by immigration officers in Minnesota and held at an ICE facility in Texas, are back in Minneapolis this weekend, released after a judge's order. Democratic Representative Joaquin Castro accompanied father and son back to Minnesota and released these images. A photo of Liam wearing a bunny hat and Spider-Man backpack at the time of his detainment drew global outrage. Ramos was welcomed home by Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, among others. Liam's release comes amid a weekend of anti-ICE demonstrations throughout the nation, including in Los Angeles and Boston. Liam's release also comes as Democratic lawmakers continue to push for ICE reforms in Washington. Proposed new restrictions would include unmasking ICE agents and requiring more warrants. On Sunday's Face the Nation, Republican Representative Michael McCall acknowledged ICE operations in Minneapolis under Border Patrol's Gregory Bovino went too far.
Bovino went in there with these roving patrols. He escalated the situation. He escalated the tension between the public and law enforcement.
President Trump said this weekend he is now advising Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem not to intervene in protests occurring in cities led by Democrats unless local authorities ask for federal help.
And if they want help, they have to ask for it. Because if we go in, all they do is complain.
Trump's border czar Tom Homan has suggested the administration could reduce the number of immigration enforcement officers in Minnesota, but only if the state and local officials cooperate.
And in international news, Venezuela's acting President Delcy Rodriguez announced an amnesty bill that could release hundreds of political prisoners. She's now calling for the law to be presented to the National Assembly. It's the latest concession made since the U.S. capture of former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Machado has said that there is a shared vision between the U.S., the Rodriguez government, and the people of Venezuela. But without legitimate power, Venezuelans have to be patient.
We're seeing the results, the actions. Are we there yet? Not. And I think it's a good point, what you mentioned, patience. How much patience can the Venezuelan people have? Whatever comes from that National Assembly has no legality. So, because this is an illegitimate power. So, certainly, these so-called reforms introduce positive signs in terms of what we, the Venezuelan people, want in the future.
The announcement of the measure for the embassy in Venezuela announced that all Americans detained in the country have been released.
Well, coming up, the tides are shifting over a new plan to protect California's largest shale reef, why folks in Bolinas say it's bad for business.
And interesting, Andrea, that you would have said tides are shifting. We still have one more day tomorrow where there is a flood advisory for high tides. It's not going to be anything like it was in early January, but we still have an issue tomorrow morning. I'll tell you the most likely time frame. You might see some low-lying inundations along the bay shore there in the North Bay. And then we'll take a look ahead to mid-70s in this forecast for some of us. Coming up after the break.
Well, It's what they're facing in the rest of the country. Another blast of winter weather hitting the East Coast. Powerful winds and heavy snow once again causing travel delays across the U.S. Whiteout conditions across Georgia and the Carolinas caused more than 2,000 cancellations yesterday. Last weekend's storm is now being blamed for at least 80 deaths. But it's a somewhat different story locally, Darren.
Oh, it is. I want to start out with that. Brian, when they go through extremes, we go through the other extreme. And we've both been locked in a pattern. The East has been locked in a very significant series of very cold Arctic outbreaks. Look at our 7-day this week for San Jose. And I'll show you the 7-day for the Bay coming up in 1 second. But I wanted to spotlight the one that stands out the most for the early and middle part of next week. We tied a record earlier this week in San Jose when we got up to the low 70s. We may come within range of that again on Tuesday and Wednesday. You're going to notice it's not like it's a heat wave, but it is going to be noticeably warm for this time of year. And then it'll come to an end by the second half of next week when the Thule fog starts to fill back in and we'll cool back down. Hang out. I'll get everybody's 7-day on here because we're not all doing that. Most of us will be in the mid-60s, but I'm going to show you the general Bay Area forecast coming up here in just a moment. All right, let's talk about a more short-term item. We still have the bright lime green on here for the Bay Shore. This is for tomorrow morning's coastal flood advisory. There's one more day to go where high tide's going to come in. This will happen just a little after 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. So if you know that off-ramp from 101, getting off to go towards Highway 1, some low-lying areas there, the bike trail usually, or maybe even some spots just along the Bay Shore. This is the last day of 3. For perspective, we were looking at 2.5 feet of inundation above ground level back in early January when all the headlines were happening. 2.5 feet. Tomorrow is 1 foot above. We've done that many times. This is not going to make headlines tomorrow, but it is the last day. So there's your heads up. About 11 o'clock tomorrow morning is when we'll hit high tide. We still have a surf advisory, but that is going to expire tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. This surf advisory, which goes all the way down through Monterey, really primarily was to draw attention to today, because by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, that is going away. All right, let's take a look at a couple other things on here. What about morning lows? Well, these have been a non-event. Have you noticed this? We've been staying in the low to mid 40s. It's been feeling pretty mild and downright kind of comfortable in the mornings, especially if you're in Santa Cruz. You're only going down to 50. Look at the jump. 12 degrees colder in Livermore at 38. So those inland valleys are still feeling it. And yeah, Santa Rosa, Petaluma, you're still going down into the upper 30s. Let's get the daytime highs on here now. And this is where we kind of focus on where we started this story with the warm-up that's coming our way for next week. We're close to these numbers. We're not quite there yet. I mean, San Jose, you might have to settle for 69 tomorrow, but you will be 5, maybe 6 degrees warmer than this the day after and going into Tuesday and Wednesday. And you can see the numbers going all the way up the rest of the bay here. Look pretty comfortable. Most places, though, are going to continue to do mid-60s for daytime highs. We take a look out into the Pacific now, and we continue to see a pattern which wants to bring the rain up, around, and over us. Let's just get one last look at what that could be. We'll say goodbye to the swells, which are coming our way, because they're not going to be super impactful, although we could see another uptick in sneaker wave risk by Tuesday. But we'll wait for the National Weather Service to put out any beach hazard statements on that. Just want to leave you with that. That would be the Sunday night chance of rain. We looked at this in detail in the last visit, so hang out here. We're going to play this all over again if you're watching us on the stream. We're going to talk about that chance of rain on Sunday night. It is not much. It is Super Bowl Sunday, but the rain just doesn't look good. The way I've put it on there is it never really looks super likely. It just looks maybe a little more promising than it did. And even at that, we're talking about maybe 1/10 or 2/10 of an inch of rain late Sunday into Monday. Here's the 7-day forecast for everybody else. That's the Bay Area generally. So when San Jose is doing mid-70s, most of us everywhere else will be doing mid to upper 60s. All right, Andrea, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Darren. Now to Bolinas, a beach town that is home to California's largest shale reef. Local fishermen and conservation groups both want to protect the future of the reef. They just can't agree on how to do it. Our Kenny Choi reports.
The sounds of waves at one of the largest shale reefs in North America and fishing from the shoreline are why Zach Fuller visits Duxbury Reef in Bolinas.
I love taking the time to learn how to be patient with it and learning about how the jetties in the ocean work.
He considers himself an environmentalist but opposes the latest efforts to redesignate what is already a marine conservation area. into a fully protected state marine reserve, which would ban even recreational fishing.
Getting a fish, bringing it back home has a reward pathway built into it and an appreciation for the health of the reef.
Protecting intertidal species, including octopus, is one of the reasons driving the Environmental Action Committee of West Marin. Ashley Eagle-Gibbs is executive director. The proposal would ban all fishing at the reef and within 1,000 feet of the low tide line on an 8-mile stretch of beach.
Our volunteers have seen invertebrates chiseled, off the reef. And it's a highly sensitive, vulnerable environment, also pretty remote location, so limited enforcement.
EAC says expanding the protected territory would not limit public access to the reef, but would reduce confusion about what people can and cannot take.
When the petition was submitted, it had community support, wide stakeholder support from national parks, sanctuaries, professors, scientists, NGOs, local community members.
The beach town is split on the issue. Some residents are working with EAC, while others are vehemently against it, making recent public meetings extremely contentious. Other locals like Patrick Sullivan, who runs Coast Cafe, which offers locally caught fish on its menu, says it's not just recreation and commercial fishermen who would be impacted by the ban.
It's a huge part of the story we get to share with our customers about where their food comes from and knowing that it sustains this local economy.
For Fuller, allowing anglers to teach others how to fish responsibly only strengthens desires within the community to protect the coastal environment.
I just think that they should have a broader perspective about what this is going to mean for 20, 30 years into the future. I mean, if nobody's ever allowed to fish here, that's a bummer.
The tides are shifting, but in which direction in this case is uncertain.
And welcome back. Black History Month is here, and families gathered to celebrate at Chase Center's Thrive City, where there were arts and crafts and food from black businesses throughout the city. Folks there tell us why the month-long celebration is important for everybody to celebrate.
Through business, through social activities, we're here at the Chase Center, through athletics, academics, the list is on and on. Every part of what humans do in society, everyone contributes. Black people in the history of the country aren't often seen for their contributions, so this is an opportunity to shine the light on that.
Live entertainment also held at today's event. Next is Thrive City's Lunar New Year celebration on February 21st. And here's Andrea.
Well, across the Bay Bridge, the Oakland Chinatown Chamber of Commerce held its 34th Oakland Chinatown Lunar New Year's Bazaar. Folks tell us the celebration is all about gearing up for the Lunar New Year and supporting local businesses.
Most of the vendors here, they're like the small businesses, right? So I feel like with them, they're kind of like the lifeline of the Bay, right? Without the small businesses, without OPD, without all these organizations, the Bay wouldn't really be the Bay. So I feel like just coming out here supporting like a local vendor, it's really important to them.
Well, officials say the Year of the Fire Horse is about energy and action, a spirit seen throughout Oakland's Chinatown. And in San Francisco's Japantown, the retail scene is booming. Business owners say the district continues to attract younger crowds, and that has been pivotal to its economic recovery. Kenny Choi has that story.
The owners of Sakura, a retail store inside Japan Center Mall, have pivoted to remain relevant. Stefan Jordan and his wife opened their doors more than 2 decades ago.
We've had to adjust. We've had to adjust.
Their store is traditional by current standards. Has Kittleton arcades featuring Japanese-style claw machine games, anime stores, and other new retailers have filled vacancies.
I'm not quite sure what you even call them. There's a new business over there, and I walk in and I have no idea what's going on.
As parts of San Francisco rely on city-funded programs like Vacant to Vibrant to fill storefront vacancies, business leaders say Japantown has bucked that trend and is thriving despite years-long construction projects. Grace Horikiri is executive director of the Japantown Community Benefit District, which has attributed the area's continued growth in part to a younger demographic.
It is that 18 to 30-year-old demographic. And when you come to Japantown, they are the ones out here in full force.
There's a lot of focus now, I feel like, on stuff like this, like these toys, anime-related stuff. Like, there's a bunch of games now. So I think it's a lot more active now than it used to be.
that means plenty of foot traffic for other, more traditional retailers.
They're looking, to see something they don't see in every other mall or every other city, right? It's like, and so that's one of the unique things about Japan Center.
Stores like Sakura are staying on top of Asian-inspired trends and products.
As you can see, I never thought 27 years ago that I would have little plush dolls.
The JCBD says there's only one vacancy currently inside the mall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Jordan isn't talking about closing his family's shop anytime soon.
The Recording Academy has already handed out dozens of Grammy Awards.
And Oakland's Kehlani won her very first Grammy, not one, but two, for Best R&B Performance and Best R&B Song, both for her smash hit, Folded. In accepting the first Grammy, Kehlani, wearing an Ice Out pin, was one of several artists who made their feelings clear.
Everybody is so powerful in this room and in this room later. And together we're stronger in numbers to speak against all the injustice going on in the world right now. Yeah. So instead of letting it be just a couple few here and there, I hope everybody's inspired to join together as a community of artists and speak out against what's going on.
Also, Berkeley's Michael Romanowski, that is him with the iPhone, won his 6th Grammy for Best Immersive Audio. He recorded this from the Grammy stage. San Francisco's Jake Hagee also won for Best Opera Recording.
Now, because of the Grammys tonight, on our broadcast side, we will see if we get on at 11 o'clock, but it's most likely a little bit later tonight.
Probably tomorrow morning.
Probably tomorrow.
But when the Grammys end, we're going to be here with you.
We'll be here.
The world is holding its breath. Thanks for joining us. Local news continues streaming right here on CBS News Bay Area.